Guys, I hope you're doing well. Welcome back to the channel, and it's been an awesome week. I hope you had a great week. I hope you hit your minimum water requirements. Let's say for the guys, I'll say about anything between 3 and 5, depending on your weight, liters per day, and the girls anything between 2 and 3. Again depending on, but anything 3 and 4 would even be better. Anyway, on the water topic, but what I want to do tonight is kind of give you some insight in maybe when you're starting your career. Maybe you've been in this a while, competing locally, and you haven't gone overseas, and maybe you're still thinking about how do you do locally what you should do to be able to go overseas. That's kind of, I think, the first point. And I think my mind was the same. I never really thought about going overseas until I qualified. And when I qualified, I had to go through a visa process, which I couldn't get done in time anyway. So I couldn't do that trip. But luckily, when you qualify for the universe, you qualify for the Worlds the next year. So I had an automatic qualification for that too. So I could use that and know, okay, now I've got 6 months to prepare, missing out on that show in October or end of October, November of that year. So that was kind of my way then, the first time competing overseas, 2015, qualified 2014. So what I actually want to talk to you tonight about is thinking about the path that lies ahead. Things like expenses for a trip like that is something that's important to consider. So I think a lot of athletes qualify to compete on an international level, and then they never get there because they all of a sudden now there's this big obstacle for them to be able to get enough money to go overseas and do it. Of course, there's many ways to do it. Fundraisers, you could ask family and friends for help. You could have sponsors, and of course you could pay it yourself. We've been mostly been self-funded. Of course, we do have sponsors and supplements, and over the years I do have, various companies like Muscle Dynamics, Core Urban Apparel, and others sponsoring me, cash towards going overseas, which I really appreciated and still very grateful. But mostly most of the fees, 70-80% does come out of, we decided to, do that kind of ourselves and then work it into our budget of going into the miners budget. So you get yourself ready for about anything starting at about 20. And when I say 20, most people have gone overseas. There's no way you're going to go overseas for 20 to 30,000, and it could be upwards of 50 and 60,000. I'm saying 20 and 30 if you have an accommodation plan overseas. That's something I have had, luckily, from when I started. I could arrange accommodation for free, basically, or small fees, 1, 2, 3,000 rand to stay there. So it was always very affordable. The biggest issue was always flights, and getting your visa stuff sorted out. That's usually the biggest issue. So of course you would need to have money there for your food too. I do think one prep we actually under budgeted for how expensive the food would be over there. And that kind of caught us off guard. We've never under budgeted for food when going somewhere where that was quite kind of interesting. Who's going to eat and who's going to watch. But interesting, and you learn a lot, on trips like that. But at the end of the day, when you plan ahead effectively, there wouldn't be issues like that. We were always focused on other things and stuff like that. I like to, when I go overseas, to wing a lot of what I eat, to wing it. It's just the way I like playing the game. Of course, I know there are athletes that prep their food over here and take it with them overseas. That's another way to go. It's not something that I do. So yeah, many ways, as I say, many ways to skin the cat, I guess. And there's arguments for both. I really enjoy the sport. I love the way that I do it. I've really, over the years, through experience and reading a lot, if kind of know that I have trust in my abilities to be able to to make a call on the fly for the best, to put me in the best position, you know. I think that's one thing, I always say no fear, no doubt. So I never have any doubts or fears about what the plan is and what it is that we need to do to get there. So again, going overseas, you're looking at accommodation. If you don't have that sorted, that could be anything between 30 and 40,000 Rand. And then your flights could be, as I've mentioned, the cheapest 15 to about 25. So if I say the cheapest you can go is 20 and everybody says there's no way, then of course, but I have gone overseas for about 20,000. I had the accommodation paid, and the flights there and back was about 15,000 back then, which I got some discount from being, part of a membership with Mango, I think, back in the day. So, or with Multiply back in the day. So, and then the money's over there to compete was 2,000 Rand and so on and so on. So that worked out to about 20. So that's what I'm saying. It is possible because I have done it once like that. So it is the 1 out of 10 shows you can do that could be like that, depending on where you're going to. But most of them is going to be very expensive if you don't have a real plan around your accommodation. And of course, with most federations, when you go overseas, they want you to travel in groups, and then the pricing is fixed. But if you look at what accommodation would cost, which is about 30 to 40,000 Rand, and your flights being 20 to 25, and they have packages together for 60 or 70 or whatever, or even up to 80,000 Rand, depending on, where you guys are going. Usually that's kind of what you would pay if you have to do it that way. We've always kind of done our own thing because we have the accommodation agreement. So for us, it wouldn't be worthwhile spending an extra 30 or 40,000 just on accommodation, because we could get it for free, basically, So that's always been kind of why when I travel overseas, I always travel alone. I don't really go with teams or the groups, but I do like lone wolfing it. It is kind of the way I like to do it anyway, so it fits. So I just thought I'd talk a little bit about that. So if you really want to maybe compete at a high level or get a pro card, competing internationally is something you would need to do. To get enough experience to get to a level where you have real trust in your ability as a professional athlete, you would need to be tested. And then that builds the kind of character and athlete and champion that nobody can break. So that's my thing that I thought I'd share with you guys tonight, or my idea, something that, we're looking at fees, maybe going to Las Vegas and looking at the costs and considering things. And I know that part of an amateur moving up to a pro is something you might not be thinking about yet until you qualify. And then if you're not prepared, you might miss the bus, So let's see this as me giving you a heads up so that you don't miss the bus, Have a great night, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow.